Welcome to a new Pimcore tutorial. Today I'd like to explain how you can connect your Pimcore data objects and also your assets with Adobe InDesign. For this I've set up a Pimcore system. Let's just look at two classes. I have a brand class which just has a name and a product class which has a name, a description, SKU, so the product number, brand relation, an image gallery, and the price. And we want to display, or we want to provide all this data to InDesign to set up a product data sheet and in the end create a PDF or multiple PDFs. This can also be a full-featured catalog with multiple pages, with a table of contents and everything else. But first, we have to provide the data. In the Data Director, I have already set up two imports for brands and for products. And this got me to this structure here. We have a products folder at the top. Below, we have all the brands. And below the brands, we have the products which belong to this brand. Just open one object. The brand just has this name, as I've shown in the class definition. And the products have the English name, the description, SKU. The brand is assigned, and we have some images. And we have the price. So this is the data we want to send to InDesign. Now, we will do this with a Data Director export. What we want to do today, to connect InDesign and to Pimcore data, you will use a plugin, an InDesign plugin called EasyCatalog. When we look at this, it provides all the functionality which is necessary to automatically create InDesign documents based on external data. Additionally to this plugin, we need a data provider. In our case, it's the XML data provider. This is necessary to enter the URL, where the URL of the Pimcore, to fetch the data or to import the data from Pimcore to EasyCatalog, and then to be able to further use that in InDesign templates. Now to implement this export, let's create a new export products for InDesign. Our source data type is Pimcore objects because we want to export the data from our Pimcore data objects, and it is an export. Source data class is product, but as I said before, we can also access data from all connected objects and also from images or other assets. For this, we will use the Auto Create button, and it will automatically create us the fields which are available in our source data class. So perhaps some of them we do not need in our InDesign template. So let's just remove ID, key, and pass. We will not need those. Published also not. We will keep the name, the description, the SKU, and from the brand relation, it lists here automatically all the available fields, but we only need the name. And from the images, we only need the URL. Let's say that the SKU is our key field. And there we already see the example data. Now let's start the raw data extraction. This now extracts the data from our Pimcore data objects into an intermediate table. And from this intermediate table, we can now define the export document. In our case, as I've said, we want to use the XML data provider for EasyCatalog. So we will use an XML export. So let's just select this out-of-the-box template, output raw data as XML, and there's our data. Right. Brand is empty because the current preview object does not have a brand. Those are those here at the top without brand. But there are certainly also some others which have a brand. For example, let's take this one, Adaya Collections. Then we see the data gets updated and we see the data from another product. Now let's run this export and look at the resulting XML document. At the first run it takes some time, but I will show you in a minute how we can accelerate this so that this whole generation will be processed faster. Here we have our XML document. We see it here, we have a XML root document and we have the single items for all of our products. There is an item. And here inside these item tags, there is the fields which we want to extract, which we wanted to extract from our data objects. So there is the name, there's the description, SKU, the brand is empty for the first object, as I've said, and there is the image URLs. So when we call this is really an image, and we have the price. Now, this is the basis for our EasyCatalog integration. Of course, starting the export manually and saving the XML file and putting it into EasyCatalog would be a bit inconvenient. It would be much easier if we could tell EasyCatalog a URL where it could fetch the live data from our Pimcore into EasyCatalog. And we can do that with the REST API from the Data Director. The Data Director offers for each export a REST API endpoint. We see the URL here. And when we call this URL or append this URL to our domain name, then we will see that the export is now executed again. We will come in a minute to the point how to accelerate this. And when it's finished, we see that our XML file looks the same. So we can trigger this export with a URL call. Now let's come to how to make this faster. Currently, what's most time consuming is the raw data extraction step. In our case, it takes 18 seconds because raw data is already existing. Previously, when the raw data did not exist, it took 31 seconds. Now, when the data object have not changed, it is not necessary to extract that information again. So for this reason, we can enable this checkbox run automatically on new data. When doing so, we'll skip the raw data extraction step and only generate the XML generation in the moment when I request the export. But to keep this data up to date, the raw data extraction step is executed as soon as I save a product object. So when a product object gets saved, the data for this one saved object gets extracted and updated for our data port. And when we then actually execute the export, the raw data is already up to date and we only have to do the XML generation, which is fairly fast here with 1 second. Now let's see how this works. So let's go to our object and let's change the name of the product to Aqua Cats 4G. Now let's save that, and when we look here in the history panel, then we see that an extract raw data step for one item has been done. And when we now look in the raw data for this product, then we will see that the name for our product is now AquaCats 4G. And when we execute this export, then we see it's already finished. It only takes 1 second. Now let's look inside this file. And here the name is also AquaCats 4G. So the data got updated in the background, and when I requested the export, it did not need to extract the data again from all those 1400 objects. So we see it here. The raw data extraction step got completely skipped, so there was 0 items, and then the processing took 1 second as before, and we have our up-to-date XML file. And when we again access this file, it will be always that fast, will be immediately there. So this way you can also later access the EasyCatalog data or InDesign data as fast as if you would work with a local XML file. Now, one last thing is missing. When you can access your Pimcore data via URL, this should be a protected one, so that not everyone can access this URL, because otherwise all your product data would be public. To achieve this, when this URL, when not using any key parameters here, then it will only work as long as you are logged into Pimcore. As soon as I log out here, this URL will not work anymore. Now, when I log in again, let's see how we can create a key so that the URL can be accessed from external systems, because you would not want to log in every time to Pimcore before accessing your data with EasyCatalog. To achieve this, we can create an API key. It's here at the bottom, permissions and API keys. There we see our user EasyCatalog, and when we double click here on the REST API key column, an API key gets automatically generated. Now, when we use that and append it to our URL, then now it works. Of course it works, but this is no proof because I'm still logged in. But when I log out and then access it again, then it still works. We get the file downloaded. When I use a new window, then it will even be better visible. You'll see here is our file, and this got downloaded. The API key here is not only that you can get access, but you can also restrict certain areas of your Pimcore. For example, that some users see certain data objects and others do not see them. So a data director export can only export the data which the user whose API key is provided has access to, nothing more. You can actually even parameterize this further to export to provide additional parameters here, like when you want to filter for a certain category or filter for certain products. This can be interesting if you want to extract the data only for one product, for example. Then you could introduce a parameter product, provide the SKU, and then only the data for this single product gets exported. This can be interesting when you want to automate product data sheet generation. As soon as this one product gets saved or gets changed, then this URL gets used to fetch the data for this product, and this then gets transmitted to InDesign for generating or for updating the product datasheet PDF, and then it will be stored somewhere on the web server or somewhere else, then this would lead to a system where all the data sheets are always up to date. So as soon as you save a product, the product datasheet generation would be queued, and then sometime later it will be finished, and then you will have always an up-to-date product datasheet for every product. So now we are ready to connect this data to InDesign. So let's go back to our what we wanted to do. Set up an XML export which contains all data. We have done this. Use the export URL to access this export. I've shown how to do this. And now we go to the main step for today, using that data in InDesign. My colleague Jana will show you that because she is the expert with InDesign. Jana, it's your turn. Thank you.
Now we come to the InDesign part of our tutorial, and here we will first have a look at how we import the data and create a new data source. Then we will structure it in our Palatte. We will insert it into the document and see how we can update it from Pimcore. And at last we will automatically generate a document with multiple records. First, let's have a look at our EasyCatalog settings, and here we use the EasyCatalog plugin, we use the XML data provider, and if we want to automatically generate documents, we need the pagination module as well. At first, we have to create a folder where EasyCatalog can save all our settings for our data source. And we choose this under Settings, EasyCatalog, and we choose the Workspace folder. The Workspace folder has to be on our local machine, and we need to make sure that EasyCatalog always has access to it. Now we create a new data source, and for that we go to File, New, EasyCatalog Palette, and here we choose New XML Data Source. Here we give a name, we enter a name in the field, and we choose URL as source, and we enter the URL of Pimcore. As record XPath, we choose the nodes as given in our XML structure. If we confirm this, we see the number of records EasyCatalog found, and in the next step we click on New, and we see there are 9 fields in our data source, and if we confirm this, we see a preview of these fields. And now we have to define a key field. Mostly this is the article number, which is uniquely for every record and must not change. And for this we choose the field, we click on Edit, and we set the check mark and confirm that dialog. And then we click OK. After we confirm that dialog, our data appears in InDesign in a spreadsheet style. It's a so-called EasyCatalog panel. And this is a snapshot of our data. We have vertically our records, horizontally all the fields that the data source contains. And as we use the automatic pagination, EasyCatalog will go through this panel and insert the records in the document in the order we created here. So it is up to us to sort the data here, to filter it, and to create groups. It's also possible to create multiple EasyCatalog panels for one data source. So it makes it very easy to save different views on the data and to handle large volumes of data. The XML data provider module allows us to import XML data that contains varying levels of grouping. In case of our images, we see that we have multiple URLs under the node item. So we have different possibilities to access them in EasyCatalog. In this example, we will use the XPath answer star functionality and configure the maximum number of fields we expect in the data. To do this, we open the XML data source configuration again. It's located at the bottom of the panel. Click on Configure, and now we will add new fields. So for this, we must retrieve the data again. And now we give a name for our field, and we paste the XPath. And we will do this for every field again. Now we will confirm and close this dialog again. We see in the preview now that we have the URL in every field. To tell EasyCatalog where images are located, for this we go to the field options by right-click in the table header. We choose the image settings, and here we choose URL, and we add it by using the field string function. If we hover the panel now, we see a little preview of the image, and so we will do this for every image field. Now every time we try to place an image in our document, this image will be downloaded and cached in our workspace folder. So before we do an automatic pagination, every image will be saved in our workspace. As EasyCatalog inserts the data records into the document in the order shown in the panel should be arranged in the desired structure of the document which we want to create. So we can do this by click in the top of the column. So here we can sort the panel. We can create filter, or we can create groups. So for example, our publication should be sorted by brand. We can add it here. We can choose if it should be ascending or descending. And if we confirm this, we get these little arrows in the first column, and we can collapse it here. If you want to insert the data in the document now, we create InDesign text frames, and we make sure that the cursor is placed in the document, and then we can right click on the column header. We choose Add Field Specifier, and we do this with every field we want to have in our layout. And we can add any style to this placeholders. For example, we add the typography. And then we can fill this with a special record. For this we mark one row in our panel, and we grab it in the first field of the row, and we drag it on the frame. Now we see that the blue marks of the placeholder changed to green. This says that it's filled with data and it's up to date. So it's the same content we have in our panel right now. And in the panel, the fields also turn in a dark green, the fields which are placed. In the same way, we can do this with images. For this, we choose an image frame, and we go to our image field, and we add the field specifier here too. And we fill it with data by dragging onto the document. We can now select our frames and we can convert it into field specifiers again. And now we can group different elements, and then we are able to fill them with data by dragging only once from the panel to the document. We can save these layouts in an EasyCatalog library by dragging it into the library panel. And now we are able to mark a row in our panel, and we can simply drag the library element to the document to fill it with data. On this page we have a layout which contains all the fields that we have in our data source. We have the brand, the name, the article number, the price, we have the maximum amount of images, and a description down below. So we can create much more complex layouts by using all the standard InDesign functionality like formats or growing text frames or the automatic displacement of objects. And in addition, we can use the EasyCatalog functionalities like adapting the data in our panel by adding additional fields, or using the pagination option dialog, where we have many more options to create layouts which adapt automatically. We can now place some data in our document again via drag and drop. So here we have one product with 5 images and another one where we have only 4 images. If we now go to Pimcore and we edit the description of our product, for example, we add some text here and we click Save and Publish. We go back to EasyCatalog, and now we can go to the menu of our data panel, and we can fetch the data from Pimcore to our panel by clicking on Synchronize with Data Source. Now we get the notification that one record in our data source has changed. We confirm this with yes. And now we see in our data panel that we have the updated description, and the field in the panel is marked red. If we have a look at the document, we see that also the marks of the description which changed became red. We can update our document now by going to the menu, and we click on Update Document, and we can choose whether we want to update a whole document and all fields which changed with one click, or if we want to update only a selection. So now we click on All, and now we become the notification that one record has been updated. And if we confirm, we see that the changes are in our document now. Now we will have a look at the automatic pagination. For a simple publication, we can work with the library objects, but if we want to create a larger document, it's better to use formatting rules instead of the InDesign library. With formatting rules, we have the advantage that we can change our layout after the pagination and update it across the whole document. This is not possible with a simple library object. So we can place our library object in our document. We select the group, then we go to the formatting rules, and we go to the menu of the panel and we click on Create New from Selection. Now we have our layout saved as formatting rule in this panel. For example, we want to do a master page pagination. For this, we go to our master page. We already have a little register with the brand placed here. And now we drag our formatting rule on the page. In this case, we want to have 2 records per page. So we have to add a position index in the pagination options. So we have the 1 on the left side, and we will add a 2 on the right side. Now we can go back to our data panel and we can choose the records we want to paginate in our document. We drag the master page on the first page of our document and we make sure that the page is selected in the panel. Then we go to the menu of the panel, we go to pagination, we choose the formatting rule and we choose paginate master pages and we confirm with OK. And now we see that EasyCatalog added multiple pages to our document. And here the brand is empty, but I think this is the case in our data. And we see that all the formatting rules are up to date.
Thanks, Jana, for showing the basics of using Pimcore data in InDesign. EasyCatalog and InDesign, of course, also offer more advanced features, like automatic layouting to prevent overlapping elements, or dynamic definition which library layouts to use for certain products. So you can define in Pimcore which layout to use for a certain product in your catalog. Of course, page numbers are supported or table of contents can be generated. So depending on which degree of automation you want to achieve, you can use EasyCatalog to only provide the data which you can use to design each page individually, up to automate catalog generation completely. So it's possible to completely generate a complete catalog with one click, but if you want a more creative process, then you can also design each page individually. So thanks for watching. If you have any question about EasyCatalog or InDesign integration with Pimcore, please write us to the email address in the video description. Thank you, bye-bye.